Studio jetzt Alfonso Zapico und er hat bei der Egmont Graphic Novel das Buch James Joyce herausgebracht, über das wir hier auch sprechen wollen. Aber da er auch Spanier ist, werden wir natürlich auch Fußball ansprechen. Welcome to Erlangen, Alfonso. And first of all, did you have some sleep?
Yes, I slept. I rest very well. I'm today with energy for the signatures, for the readers, for the festival. You know.
I just asked because here in Erlangen there are a lot of parties, there are a lot of possibilities to get lost in the night.
Well, it's a little city, but there are very much activities since the festival, very much people, and I love it. For me, it's the first time, and this is a wonderful experience.
It's a little bit like a family here, so it's always nice to come here again. You will see when you come back in some years or maybe next year. It's a small family, you know, always. So you made a portrait about James Joyce. Not a very easy thing to do, because James Joyce is such a big author of really big novels. How did you arrange it to get closer to him, to get closer to his character?
Really, the reason, I don't know exactly why I try to draw the biography of James Joyce and not any other author, but I like this person, this writer, because I love very much, not exactly Ulysses, who is a very big book, very monumental novel, but I love his perspective of life, his philosophy of the common life, the real life, of change, the heroes of the literature before, for the new heroes who are the anti-heroes, the real persons, the real and the little details of the ordinary life, because Ulysses is simply that, is the real life in Dublin 100 years ago, and this perspective of the life and his permanent connected to the music, to the sound, to the life, to celebrate the life all the time. Maybe that is an Irish perspective of an Irish philosophy of life, but I like that, and at this time when we have problems, when we have crisis, this is a very big inspiration for me.
So you could say that Ulysses was a kind of base for the portrayal of James Joyce.
Yeah, the books, all the books of Joyce were something a base for me to build this comic book, this graphic novel, and in this book there are some pages who are extracted from Ulysses, from Dubliners, from portrait of an artist, and that is because he built too his books with his real life, with the life of her friends, his family, with the things. He listened the details, he listened in the city and Dublin, in Europe, and with that, with all this documentation, with a book, it's a very strong book of his official biography of Richard Erlangen, an English writer, is the line with where I built all the biography, all the trip for the whole Europe.
What I learned from your book is that James Joyce was a difficult character, had a difficult character. He didn't like particularly his first child. When it was born, he kind of abandoned it. He didn't want to care about it. Was this difficult to portray? Because it's always easy to portray a positive person.
for me it's difficult to build the personage and to transform this drawn character in a real personage, because there are very much angles, there are very much different things in his head. He's optimistic and he's happy and he's genius, but there are any other portraits too in the same person. The bad friend, the bad husband, the bad person. There is not a simply portrait, horizontal portrait. There is with very much mountains of sentiments, of character, and this is the difficult. But this is too the adventure, and this is the thing, and why I love it.
Mm. What intrigues me about this time is that it's only about 150 years ago, 150 years ago, but it was a really different time. People were much poorer, they had much less than we have right now. I think it's difficult to write a book about this time, because it's so near to us, and though it's so far to us. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's difficult because today the young generation, the today readers, maybe don't understand very well the situation of the old Europe before the two wars, before the change of all the countries. When Joyce, that's well, because we can understand something with this trip from Dublin, from Ireland to England to France to Italy. With this trip in train of Joyce, we can discover all the difference, all the transformation of this Europe to the modern Europe of before the after the Second War. And at the same time, that's curious, because the book is translated to English, French, Polish, German, Spanish, and in all the countries the book has a different life. In the old country, in all countries, book the history is special and has a little success, but the success of the book in Ireland is completely different to the success of the book in France. We are not changed very much I think, after 100 years. And in Ireland, the readers love very much the history, love very much the thematic, because that's a writer, a national writer of Ireland, Joyce. But they are some hungry with some parts of the book. They think very sexual. They think very a little attacks to religion, to tradition, and I think maybe there is today now a little part of the Joyce's Ireland. These details I love it.
The book takes place before the First World War. And now we have the 100th anniversary of the beginning of the First World War. How much has Europe changed in this time before the World War? And how much did it change after it? What do you think?
I think the First World War was a very, very strong rupture, a very strong change of the old Europe, of the old empires, of the old conception of the politics, of the life. And there is the starting, the beginning of any other Europe who will arrive with the Second War. But for Joyce and for me, for drawing the book, I did the same trip for Europe with Joyce. I was in Dublin, I was in Paris, and I was to Trieste, a little city in north of Italy. who before the World War was a part of the great empire of Austria, Hungary, and the city today has something different. It's not really Italy. Has something of the part of nostalgia of this old empire who doesn't exist today, maybe in the character of the people too, and that's true. The World War has had a very strong new way for the politics and for the countries, but in the maybe these days too, the construction, the first day of the new character, new conception of the Europe, of the continental Europe, of the European Union.
So you went to all these places. Your drawings were based on your experiences in these places?
Yes, for me that's important because for the I like to work very hard with the documentation, with the this is something to build a production to cinema. I need the architecture, I need the streets, I need the trains, I like to work for these cities who after I have to rebuild in 100 years before. And for me that's important to discover the spirit of Trieste, the spirit of Dublin, a very special city. Maybe Dublin didn't change very much, but Ireland is a different country. And this work for me is important because maybe reader don't appreciate because the act of reading you have a page and you read very fast, but there is a work of reconstruction of documentation who I like and who with that I can recreate the font, the city.
It's something I recognize because I was already at Trieste, and I recognized the city, part of the city, part of the older city. So it was intriguing to see that you paid so much attention to the details. But what is also interesting, you decided not to draw in a really realistic way when it's in respect of the characters. The characters are drawn a bit, well, in a style, maybe a bit something like ligne claire. Why didn't you decide for a realistic way to portray them?
That's my own style. I think I like very much to construct the city, the rooms, the streets with a very realistic details. I like to draw the real shops, the real coffees, the real the journals the personages are reading in the draws are the real journals in this date. But after the personage, the characters are not very realistic because my style is not very realistic. It's not very anatomic. It's not very fixed to have a conception photographic of the character, of the human character. For that, I have the freedom for draw. I have a style more cartoonist, more. It's not realistic, but I have the freedom to construct the sentiments, the situations, the different ways who the protagonist, the character can express.
That's, yeah, I can underline that. It was really interesting to read. It was really interesting to see all the details from the life of James Joyce. Do you think that using the concept of a graphic novel, which implies that you have a lot of pages to draw, is the right thing for a portrait of a real person?
The concept of graphic novel I love because that change this is another freedom this is the freedom for the creator because before, for example, in Spain when we speak of the book of the comic market of the comic publishers, before we were the books closed with 48 pages, with the French style, with the French format. Now it's free. All the authors, all the creators has the freedom for decide his number of pages, his the thematic of his histories. Is not there is not a closed market of adventures, of superheroes. There are a total freedom. That's the adventure. That's the and it's for that I think we changed it and we arrived with this new comic book, the graphic novel, to the non-comic reader, to the reader of literature, to the reader of documentary, of journalism, who discover now histories adapted to his preference, to his style, and this is a new market. We open it with simply with open the freedom for build the graphic novel, and all the authors can build a graphic novel for all the readers.
To the last questions, which go far away from your book. You're Spanish. What did you feel about the loss of the Spanish on the World Championship?
This is a national disaster. The new king, he started his kingdom with the elimination of the Spanish team. It's not a very good beginning, but I think that's normal. The selection, the players, they are very, very, very tired after the Spanish championship, and well, now we can we have the graphic novel for the decade energy. No more soccer, but we have graphic novel.
What do you think about the Spanish kingdomship? Is it something which should go on, or is it something which should end?
The Spanish kingdomship, I think is the monarchy, the institution. I think is not logic now in this moment, in this country, in this modern countries. It's not logic. A monarchy. It's not logic. The president of a country hasn't an election, a popular election, has simply a family and the blood. This is a thing of before, any other time. But the people in Spain, I think, is preoccupied, but not of the monarchy. Is preoccupied for the war, the crisis, I think more for the successor and the monarchy. And maybe this new king will be king since very much years along in the time, but I would prefer the republic.
Okay, that's interesting, because I think that many Spanish are thinking the same thing. That's what we are told in our newspapers.
I think of...
Then they think that the kingdomship should end.
The newspapers in Spain say the kingdom, a new king, is prepared, is very professional, he speaks very much language, he studied in universities of USA. He will not be a very bad president. But people at the streets has not the same opinion. Maybe Spain is a complicated country, I think.
I think so too.
Mm.
So thanks very much for your time, and it was a pleasure to meet you, and I hope we will see again when you publish another graphic novel, maybe also at Egmont Graphic Novel. Maybe next year, maybe in 2 years, maybe in 3 years, who knows. It's a pleasure, and thanks very much.
Thanks for you.